From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. A Vietnamese man hopes to raise the quality of education in his country by building parent libraries in rural schools. Nguyen Nguyen Thach provides libraries to the schools so books are more available in farming communities. He works with publishers in Hanoi to get the books at reduced rates for teachers and their students. By talking with farmers, workers, and students, Mr. Thach discovered most schools have enough textbooks, but many poor families have few books at home and do not visit school libraries. More than 90% of Vietnam's population can read and write, but academic performance in the schools remains low compared to other Southeast Asian nations. Corruption is a big part of the problem. Vietnamese media often report stories of teachers giving high grades in exchange for money. Some experts criticize teaching methods that depend heavily on dictation. They say asking students to repeat everything a teacher says to the class harms their ability to think for themselves. Nguyen Nguyen Thach says he wants people to invest money in books for a better future. To date, almost 1,000 parent libraries have been built in Tay Ben province. Hundreds of books are in each one. Several other provinces have copied this model. For each school, Mr. Thach helps build libraries for up to 4 classes. Others then follow his example. The head of the An Duc Secondary School says Mr. Thach's work has improved the quality of education. She thinks Mr. Thach's example helps students think more creatively, or, to put it in an American expression, outside the box. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Education Report. Next year, the Peace Corps will celebrate its 50th anniversary. Peace Corps volunteers are Americans who teach and work on projects in developing countries. The United States created the Peace Corps during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Today, technology has changed how the volunteers do their work and stay connected with friends and family back home. In the early 1980s, Gordy Mengel served in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Letters from home would take weeks or months. As a result, he socialized more with people in the local community. He lost contact with friends and family back in the States. Today, Gordy Mengel is a Peace Corps programming and training officer in Rwanda. He says these days are different because of the internet and cell phone service. When volunteers go back to their homes in villages, they can get on Skype, or they give a quick call to mom and dad back at home. Sonia Morhanj is one of about 100 Peace Corps volunteers in Rwanda. She talks with a friend in California on Skype, an internet calling service. She talks with her mother on the phone and emails her father. She says, I can't imagine having been a Peace Corps volunteer in the 70s or the 80s or even the early 90s. I'm just so used to everyone having a cell phone that works internationally. I'm very, very lucky in the fact that where I live, I have wireless internet, and that makes it a lot easier. Peace Corps volunteers receive a living allowance and other benefits in return for 27 months of training and service. John Reddy is the country director in Rwanda. He says fairly easy access to the internet means that volunteers can do more than just call home. They can research subjects to help their communities. And through the Peace Corps Partnership Program, they can get donations online for their projects. But John Reddy admits he sometimes misses the old days, before the internet and good phone service. He says volunteers had more independence then. You can comment on this story and find other education reports online at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and iTunes at VOA Learning English. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Education Report. A program in the eastern United States invites young people into a prison to try to scare them away from prison. The goal is to teach them to avoid bad choices and bad influences that could put them behind bars for life. Students can take a tour of the prison in school groups or by themselves. At the end, the young people sit down for a discussion with some of the inmates. The program is called Prisoners Against Teen Tragedy, or PAT. It takes place at the Maryland Correctional Institution, Hagerstown, a medium-security prison for men. Sal Mariello is a case specialist there. He says 11 prisoners are in the PAT program. They tell the students about their crimes. They try to teach them about bad choices. The Prisoners Against Teen Tragedy program also includes an essay writing contest. Tomi Dare is a 17-year-old student at Hagerstown Community College. She saw an announcement for the contest on her college website. To enter, students had to write about pressure from other students and why they do not use drugs. The prize? $500 for school. In her essay, Ms. Dare wrote about her own experience growing up as an African American girl interested in sports. She wrote that drugs and alcohol slow her down and do not make her feel like a winner. The scholarship is presented by the Prisoners Against Teen Tragedy program. Prison spokesman Mark Vernarelli says most teens who visit come to understand what even one bad decision can mean. He says many men and women serving life in prison in the state of Maryland did not shoot a gun or plunge a knife into anybody. They were accessories to a crime. They drove the getaway car. They were with the person who did the main part of the crime. And yet, they got the life sentence as well. Prisoners Against Teen Tragedy began in 1988. PAT is one of Maryland's oldest programs to keep young people from a life of crime. But there are also others. Mr. Vernarelli says there is a special program for girls only. And there is a program where the students eat a meal in the prison cafeteria with the inmates. Mark Vernarelli says the prisoners also gain from the program. It offers them a chance to help repay society for their crimes and keep others from following in their footsteps. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. 826 is the name of a nonprofit organization that works to help students become better writers by thinking creatively. 826 is also the address of the first center where this literary arts program began in 2002. Author Dave Edgars and educator Nineveh Caligari started the program in California at 826 Valencia Street in San Francisco. It now serves 30,000 students through writing and tutoring centers in 8 American cities. At the front of 826 Valencia is a pirate supply store. Think of the kind of place where Captain Jack Sparrow might shop. Lee Lehman is the executive director. She says the idea of entering through a pirate store is meant to get students not to think of the place as a school or tutoring center. During the day, teachers bring classes on field trips, and volunteers help with writing projects. After school, students come for help with creative writing and their schoolwork. The center is for public school students between 6 and 18 years old. 826 Valencia is located in a mostly Latino neighborhood. Ms. Lehman says many of the children are from poor immigrant families. Each 826 center has a different theme, from the pirate store in San Francisco to a store for spies in Chicago. The National Chief Executive, Gerald Richards, says budget cuts in public schools mean less money for arts education. And as that goes away, he says, so does the ability for students to use their imagination. I think there is much more of a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. There's a lot of focus on testing, and a lot of the teaching that's going on in schools is focusing on the test and passing the test, rather than thinking about how do we get kids to think. Lee Lehman says 826 builds confidence. Students can publish and sell their work at places like the Pirate Supply Store and on the internet. In 2010, the programs across the country published 944 volumes of student writing. Ms. Lehman says students are proud when their writing gets published. One of the students in San Francisco, Sofia Marquez, says, I get to use my imagination. That's why I like writing. You can watch another video about the program in San Francisco at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find texts, MP3s, and activities to read, listen, and learn English. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Each year, 750,000 Americans under the age of 20 become pregnant. The United States has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancy among Western industrialized countries. New York City has an especially high rate with about 20,000 teen pregnancies each year. Since 1984, the Carrera Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program has worked to reduce the birth rate for teens. The program has worked with the Children's Aid Society, which operates after-school activities for young people. The sex education effort starts with children who are 10 and 11 years old. But sex education is only part of the effort. Psychologist Michael Carrera launched the Pregnancy Prevention Program 29 years ago. He says efforts to reduce teen pregnancy rates must help young people see themselves as successful adults. He says success is more likely when young people believe that good things are going to happen in their lives. Then they take steps to reduce the risk of teen pregnancy on their own. The program includes sports training, art classes, part-time jobs, and help with banking. Healthcare is also available, as well as advice on education. Young people in the program have 50% fewer pregnancies than other New York teenagers from similar at-risk backgrounds. Michael Carrera is now in his 70s. He says he is still excited to come to work. His program reaches about 4,000 students in 12 states. The Obama administration has recognized the program with a Social Innovation Award. In 2010, the administration ordered that federal money for sex education only go to programs that are proven to be effective. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. A new report says more and more international students are attending colleges and universities in the United States. It also notes a large increase in the number of students from China. These findings are from the latest edition of the Open Doors Report. It is a joint project of the State Department and the Institute of International Education, a nonprofit educational and training organization. The report documents the record number of international students in the United States during the 2011-2012 school year. It says more than 764,000 international students are attending American colleges and universities during the period, a 6% increase from the year before. By comparison, the number of Americans studying overseas increased by 1%. The report says 194,000 students at American colleges and universities were from China. That is an increase of more than 23% over the year before. Peggy Blumenthal is with the Institute of International Education. She says the number of Chinese students is at its highest level ever. Peggy Blumenthal says Chinese students
prefer to come to the United States. Chinese students are not the only ones who want to attend American colleges and universities. After China, India sends the second largest number of students to the United States for higher education. India has about 100,000 students in American schools. South Korea is third, with about 72,000 students. Peggy Blumenthal says the advantage of higher education in America is that it is a very big and very diverse system. She says there are over 4,000 universities and colleges in the United States, so there is still a lot of room for international students. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. A new study shows that simple, low-cost interventions can help teenage girls in Africa stay in school during their monthly periods. Paul Montgomery of Oxford University in Britain led the study. He said women are a driving force of development across Africa, so it is important, he said, to keep girls in school. 120 girls in Ghana took part in the study. Their average age was 16. They attended 3 secondary schools in urban areas and 1 in a rural area. In the study, girls at 2 of the schools received free sanitary pads and lessons on puberty. Their attendance increased by an average of 6 days during a 65-day school term. The puberty lessons included information about personal care during menstruation. The girls also learned about the biology of their developing bodies and about pregnancy. At the 3rd school, the girls received the lessons, but not the free pads. Attendance by these girls also improved about the same amount over 5 months. At the 4th school, the girls did not receive the pads or the lessons. That group showed no improvement in school attendance. Paul Montgomery says the girls in the study had several reasons for missing school during their monthly bleeding. A majority expressed embarrassment about the changes in their bodies. Paul Montgomery says the interventions might not only keep girls from missing school, but also reduce teen pregnancies. The Public Library of Science published the study in its journal PLOS One. A larger study is taking place in Uganda until 2015. For VOA Learning English, I'm Mario Ritter.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Education Report. Today, we remember a man who was considered one of the best teachers in the United States. Jaime Alfonso Escalante was born in 1930 in La Paz, Bolivia. Both his parents were teachers. He taught math and science in his home country for 12 years. In the 1960s, Jaime Escalante and his wife Fabiola came to the United States. During the next several years, he learned to speak English and repeated his college education and teacher training. In 1974, Mr. Escalante was hired at Garfield High School to teach mathematics. The school was in a poor area of Los Angeles, California. Many of the students had serious problems with illegal drugs, gangs, and violence. The school was in danger of losing its official approval to operate. Mr. Escalante's students were mostly Mexican Americans from a Spanish-speaking area of the city. Many were the worst students at the school and thought to be unteachable. But Mr. Escalante pushed the group to work hard. He told them basic math was too easy and that they had the ability to do harder work. He told his students that he believed in them, but they must have the desire to be successful. Jaime Escalante started an advanced math program with a small group of students. Advanced placement is a program of college-level classes and tests. In 1982, 18 of his students took the advanced placement test in calculus. They all passed. Officials at the testing company suspected the students of cheating. Mr. Escalante protested. He said the students were being rejected because they were Hispanic and from a poor school. He urged his students to take the test again. 12 of the students repeated the test, and again, all of them passed. 5 earned top scores. Mr. Escalante's students went on to become engineers, scientists, and university professors. The advanced math program at Garfield became extremely successful over the next several years. Jaime Escalante received many teaching awards, including the Presidential Medal of Excellence in Education. A movie about his success, Stand and Deliver, was released in 1988. It influenced other teachers to use his methods. Jaime Escalante retired from teaching in 1998 and later moved back to Bolivia with his wife. He died earlier last year. He was 79 years old. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.